adapting to warming under 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius. It is my pleasure to be the MC of tonight. My name is Sumi Hong, and I am an Associate Economic Affairs Officer at UN ESCAP. Before we start the meeting, I would just like to remind everyone that this is a hybrid meeting. We have some presenters and panelists joining online as well as being present here in person. And for those of us joining online, I would like to kindly remind you to keep yourself on mute unless you're speaking. And when you are speaking, please turn on your camera as appropriate. And please enter in a recognizable format. And if you encounter any technical difficulties, please reach out to our IT focal point, Shashwat, who is also present in the room. And to all the speakers, this is a reminder to please keep to your times, which have already been communicated to you separately. If needed, myself and our moderator, Sapna, will remind you as necessary. And lastly, to all the participants online and present here, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Ms. Tiziana Bonapace, Director at ICT and Division at UN ESCAP, to deliver her opening remark. Unfortunately, Ms. Tiziana was not able to join the session, but she has shared a pre-recorded video, which we will play now.
Warmest greetings, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ESCAP, as the Director of the ICT and Disaster Risk Reduction Division, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the session on innovative tools for climate resilience. As Asia Pacific is the most disaster-prone region in the world, with a population 5 times more likely to be affected by natural disasters than a person that lives outside the region, the topic of how do we translate knowledge into action for evidence-based decision-making and adaptation to warming under the 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius scenarios is not only essential, but it is also a promising topic for our discussions today and for our future. And indeed, as borne out by ESCAP's in-depth technical analytical work as contained in the sub-regional analysis of its Asia-Pacific Disaster Report series, under all climate scenarios and in comparison to global averages, Asia and the Pacific will be the most impacted by extreme events. And this is also borne out by ESCAP's latest publications, which we did in partnership with the World Meteorological Organization, titled State of the Climate Reports for Asia and Southwest Pacific. And here as well, the scientific evidence points to the urgency, the climate urgency. And the findings from these reports have also been acknowledged in the Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan adopted at the COP27 just a few weeks ago. So, distinguished participants, allow me to briefly share 3 recommendations which I hope will guide your discussions today. First, it's time to embark on transformative adaptation with an emphasis on risk-informed development policies and investments in the most vulnerable subregions, which are also the most likely to be impacted and hit disproportionately under the 1.5 to 2 degree warming scenarios. Second, we need to capitalize on the digital innovations and the risk analytics to enhance the preparedness through early warning, through surveillance, and through strategic foresights. And in fact, strategic foresight, interestingly, is part of what the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has referred to as the quintet of change. So strategic foresight is one of the 5 areas where the UN will be becoming much more involved in the future. So strategic foresight to manage cascading and systemic crises is to unlock the potential of regional and sub-regional cooperation, because the vulnerabilities and the risks are shared in Asia and the Pacific. On moving forward with transformative adaptation in an increasingly riskier region, SGAP and IGES partnership has assumed significance. SGAP and IGES have been natural partners while addressing a range of development challenges that are related to the 2030 agenda. And I'm pleased that we are extending our partnership in disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. And I thank you for this most productive partnership. I appreciate the leadership of IGES to establish the Asia Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform, or APPLAT, that provides a range of products and services to support adaptation processes in the region. Likewise, SGAP's Asia Pacific Risk and Resilience Portal and APPLAT are synergistic digital platforms, and together they offer innovative solutions to support the countries to embark on transformative adaptation. So I'm very pleased that the session will discuss the complementarities between the two digital platforms. And I do hope that the joint efforts of SGAP and IGES will together support the transformative adaptation and the investments we need in transformative adaptation in these riskier times. Thank you.
Very much, Ms. Tiziana Bonapace. Now I would like to invite Mr. Genichiro Sukada, Director of Climate Change Adaptation Office, Global Environment Bureau at the Ministry of the Environment, Japan, who is joining us virtually to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Genichiro Sukada, are you online? Could we have Mr. Oh, there we go. You have the floor, Mr. Genichiro.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Distinguished speakers and participants, on behalf of the Ministry of the Environment, the Government of Japan, I'm very pleased to welcome all of you to today's session. In recent years, extreme phenomena such as heavy rainfall and heat waves, as well as effects thought to be caused by climate change, have occurred in many areas of the world. For example, this year, Pakistan experienced devastating flooding damage. Europe and other regions experienced heat waves, while Florida and other states of the United States suffered extensive damage from a large hurricane. In addition, as you know, the Working Group 2 report of IPCC 6 assessment report released in February this year stated that human-induced climate change, including more frequent and intense extreme events, has caused widespread adverse impacts and related losses and damages to nature and people beyond the natural climate variability. In such a situation, UNFCCC COP27 was held in Egypt last month. Since the conference was held in Africa, there was a great deal of focus on adaptation and loss and damage, as well as financial support from developed countries to developing countries. The Japanese government has responded to the theme of loss and damage by announcing its supporting package for averting, minimizing, and addressing loss and damage to provide comprehensive technical support ranging from disaster prevention to disaster relief and disaster risk insurance at the ministerial session of the COP. The supporting package includes a new initiative led by our ministry to promote early warning systems in the Asia-Pacific region through public-private partnerships. We can say that now there is a common global understanding that measures on both adaptation and loss and damage must be implemented on a time-sensitive basis. Then I'd like to make an introduction of Japan's continued efforts to actively engage in international cooperation in the field of adaptation. In 2019, the Ministry of the Environment Japan, together with the National Institute for Environmental Studies Japan, the Institute for Global Environment Strategies, and relevant organizations in the Asia-Pacific region, launched the Asia Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform, or APPLAT. APPLAT aims to enable environment for climate risk-informed decision-making and practical adaptation actions through synchronizing and harnessing best available efforts among partner countries and institutions. We began our activities of APPLAT based on 3 pillars: development and sharing of scientific knowledge, development and sharing of adaptation tools such as the ClimateCast and the Climate Impact Viewer, and capacity development. I strongly expect that APPLAT will well contribute to the promotion of disaster preparedness and climate action at regional, sub-regional, and national levels in the Asia Pacific by promoting adaptation actions based on scientific findings. Finally, I very much hope that this session will serve as a great opportunity for all of you to encourage more interest in innovative tools for climate resilience for evidence-based decision-making and boost involvement in them. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Genichiro Sukada, for your warm welcome remarks. For countries, transformational adaptation to climate change, and especially to water-related...
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, but could you please put it in presentation mode?
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect.
Great. So good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Madhurima Sarkar-Swaisgood, and I would like to present the Asia Pacific Risk and Resilience Portal. This portal was created to really bridge the science and policy gaps in disaster and climate action. So as our previous speaker also noted, we have really seen recently in Pakistan, for example, how intensifying water-related hazards from climate change are impacting the most vulnerable and poorest of populations. These monster floods are not going to be an isolated event. So there are 3 major challenges that face the entire Asia-Pacific region. First, climate change is changing the intensity and frequency of water-related hazards. Second, this is leading to intensifying and expanding hotspots of intersecting risks. And third, managing climate risk for disaster resilience and sustainable development has to be cross-cutting and cross-sectoral. So the key to managing these challenges is investing in science policy action interfaces. And this is the core and the USP of the Risk and Resilience Portal. The portal is a state-of-the-art, data-intensive analytical ecosystem, and using big data, AI, and machine learning, the portal integrates hazard, climate, social, economic, and sector data to really become a one-stop shop on risk and resilience analytics for policymakers. So, for example, a policymaker can use the portal's location-based data to identify climate risk hotspots in their country before a disaster occurs. For example, our climate vulnerability maps identify the exact locations that are now the worst affected provinces from flooding in Pakistan. The portal can also be used to strengthen sub-regional cooperation by identifying areas of transboundary risks under changing geography for water-related hazards. So, for example, here we see where populations are most vulnerable to the shifts in potential flooding under 1.5 and 2 degree climate change in the Mekong River Basin. Addressing and establishing early warning systems in advance for these populations will build resilience of these populations and could potentially mitigate the impacts of future monster floods. So for 55 countries in the Asia Pacific, the portal has brought together data from multiple sources to create a comprehensive damage and loss risk profile. For example, here you see a policymaker from Maldives can see historical damage and loss data from all the hazards impacting their country. And here, the portal also for these countries dynamically estimates the future potential losses under climate change scenarios and customizes adaptation priorities based on historical and future risk profiles. For Maldives, for example, annual average losses under the worst case climate change scenario are estimated at 1.1% of GDP. So to date, the portal has enabled more complex and precise analysis and supported risk-informed development policies, really building the case for investing in climate change adaptation and resilience. And the analytics have really enhanced policy research, such as the Asia Pacific Disaster Reports and other flagship publications, as well as the State of Climate reports. And we would welcome partnerships for future joint reports as well. And finally, the analytics of the portal are being used in other portals, such as the one shown here from World Bank and RIMES project. And here, moving forward, there are opportunities to synergize with other data portals like the AP Platts various data tools, where we can build complementary systems by overlaying SGAP's social and economic data with AP Platts environment and climate data to be used for more comprehensive adaptation planning and sub-regional cooperation for transboundary water hazards. And Dr. Sanjay Srivastava will elaborate further on these synergies during the panel discussion. So I will end there, colleagues, and thank you very much. And I look forward to the discussions in this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Madhurima Sarkar-Swicegood, for her comprehensive overview of ESCAP Risks and Resilience Portal. Now I would like to give a presentation on ESCAP's contribution in the Sub-Regional Seasonal Outlook Forum. Could we please have my slide on the screen, please? Apologies for the slight delay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make a quick presentation on sub-regional seasonal outlook to impact-based forecasting. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Impact-based forecasting allows us to not only see what the weather will be, but what the weather will do. As you can see, impact-based forecasting consists of utilizing hazard information such as seasonal forecasts, climate scenarios, and by interposing it with exposure and vulnerability data such as population, agricultural quantity, energy information, it is possible to calculate the potential impact, identify risk hotspots, and the number of people with additional layer of vulnerability. Next slide, please. This is an example of a seasonal forecast which we receive from our partners in ASEAN-COF, FOCRI, and SASCOF. In this case, this is a seasonal outlook for precipitation for the Southeast Asia region for the month of June to August. And as we have experienced in Thailand, there has been unexceptional cases of above normal precipitation. Next slide, please. And by using these seasonal forecast data as a baseline, and by utilizing key indicators such as vegetation condition, population, we can incorporate these data into online databases, such as in the ESCAP Risk and Resilience portal, to conduct impact-based forecasting. Next slide, please. As you can see, ESCAP Risk and Resilience Portal already has climate scenarios, especially for natural disasters such as floods, droughts, heat waves, and storms. And when we interpose this data with socioeconomic and demographic data, such as the Human Development Index, economic stock, health facilities, etc., it is possible to do impact-based forecasting. Next slide, please. This is an example of impact-based forecasting with storm trajectory projection, which we have done for the tropical cyclone Amphan and for cyclone Molave in South and Southwest Asia and in Vietnam. In both cases, we have interposed storm trajectory projection with vulnerability data, HDI, and poverty rate to see locations with additional layer of vulnerability. Next slide, please. On the final slide, on the left, you can see the seasonal outlook for precipitation for the month of June to September, which was shared during SARS-CoV-22. And on the right side, you can see the satellite image of flood-affected populations in the recent floods in Pakistan. And you can see that although there are some differences, the hotspots that stand out in seasonal forecasts largely overlaps with, although there are certain limitations due to data granularity and the probabilistic nature of the analysis, it is largely possible to accurately identify the risk hotspots of impending risks. And therefore, seasonal outlook for precipitation can be one of the layers that can prove to be an effective decision-making support for policymakers on the ground. And online databases such as ESCAP Risk and Resilience Portal will continue to work with seasonal outlook forums to enable impact-based forecasting. Last slide, please. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Okay, thank you. I would now like to invite Mr. Yuji Masutomi, Section Head at the Center for Climate Change Adaptation at the National Institute for Environmental Studies, to give a demonstration of the AP-PLAT tool to support climate resilience. Can we have Mr. Yuji Masutomi's slides? Thank you. And is Mr.
Yes.
Masutomi?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, my name is Yuji Masutomi from Center for Climate Change Adaptation at NIAS. And today I would like to briefly introduce Asia-Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform, which is called AP-PLAT. Oh, sorry. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot handle this one. Just a moment. Sorry, I cannot send. I need to just a moment. I have some trouble in the camera, maybe.
Would you prefer us to share your slides on our end? We have your slides. Okay, we can help you move. Oh,
I think now you can see my slide.
we can see your slides.
Okay, sorry. And yes, and now you can see the second slide, right?
Yes, it's visible. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm sorry. And first, I would like to explain what is AP-PLAT. And AP-PLAT is a web-based information platform. But some people confuse what is a web-based information platform. Just that means a website. So AP-PLAT is just website and climate change adaptation, mainly focusing on Asia-Pacific region. And AP-PLAT was launched in June 2019 on the G20 meeting, and the goal of the AP-PLAT is to promote climate change adaptation. And then Tsukada-san has already mentioned EPIPRAT. We have three main activity, and first one is the development of a tool, and second one is giving scientific information and also capacity development. And then now you can see that the front page of the EPIPRAT. So I do hope that you visit EPIPRAT, and then I'm sure that you can understand, you can learn a wide range of information on climate change adaptation from this EPIPRAT site. And today I would like to introduce you two or several main tools of EPIPRAT. First one is CMIP6 Climate Bureau, which is called ClimateCast. And then the main concept of ClimateCast is to deliver latest climate projection for all people. All people mean student, child, mother, father, grandfather, value student, all people, right? And then ClimateCast has two modes. First one is map mode. In the map mode, you can geographically compare future climate change between climate scenario, including 10 GCM, the latest future climate change GCM, and for emission scenarios. And also in the time series mode, you can compare, you can understand the future climate change over time between, including 10 GCM and 4 SSP scenario. And the most important feature of ClimateCast is you can easily download this data by each town level, each city level, of course, each state level, province level, and each country level. So just one click, just one click, and then you can download the data in a CSV format or Excel format, right? So ClimateCast provide the latest future climate projection by each city level, each country level to you. Okay, that is the most important feature of ClimateCast. And also the other main tool of EPIPRAT is Climate Impact Bureau. The Climate Impact Bureau provides climate change impact information based on scientific result. So you can develop the adaptation planning from the information of Climate Impact Bureau. And then now you can see that two figures, and this figure shows the future rice yield change at the end of this century. And right figure show the no adaptation rice yield, and then show the rice yield with adaptation. So, and then black color indicate higher crop yield, higher rice yield. So if you compare these two figures, and then you can get higher rice yield with adaptation. So these two figures, from these two figures, you can understand the effect of adaptation. Also, so now I just show you the example of rice yield, but Climate Impact Bureau also provide a wide range of sectors information, including extreme weather, sea level rise, health, agriculture, water resources, and ecosystem. And also, we have just launched a new page on adaptation planning. Okay, and then this page has three main features. First one is you can understand practical information in all processes of the adaptation plan development. And then now you can see that this figure shows the process of the adaptation planning. And also you can get some guidance on national adaptation plan and the other information in the UNFCCC processes. And also this page gives you a wide range of information on the status of adaptation planning over the Asia Pacific region. So you can note and you can understand the other country situation of adaptation planning from this adaptation planning page of EPIC-Prat. I think this kind of information is so useful for adaptation planning in your country. And also, as I mentioned, the capacity development is one main activity of EPIC-Prat, and we have an e-learning course and e-learning contents through YouTube. So you can learn a wide range of knowledge and information on climate change adaptation by watching these kind of e-learning contents through YouTube at home. And also, we sometimes we organize a training workshop about EPIC-Prat. So please contact me if you are interested in the EPIC-Prat activity and if you're interested in the tool of EPIC-Prat. Okay, so the main objective of EPIC-Prat is just bridge between science and stakeholders. That is the final goal of EPIC-Prat. Thank you for your attention. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yuji Masutomi, for a very comprehensive presentation on EPIC-Prat tool. I would now like to invite my colleague, Ms. Sapna Dubey, to lead the next session on the panel discussion. We also invite all the panelists who are present in the room to please step forward onto the stage, please. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to everyone in the room and online, and a very warm welcome to our distinguished panelists. I will be moderating this session. My name is Sapna Dubey. I'm a consultant in the Disaster Risk Reduction section, UNSCAP Bangkok. Thank you very much for introducing us to brilliant tools in the panel before. In this roundtable discussion with our distinguished panelists, we will be addressing three key questions. First, the pathways to climate change adaptation activities, especially through early warning systems. Second, how policymakers can use digital platforms for climate change impact assessment and adaptation projects. And lastly, the need for acceleration of disaster and climate-related SDGs through. To start our discussion, I would first like to invite Dr. Sanjay Srivastava on the floor. He is the Chief of Section of the Disaster Risk Reduction Section in UNSCAP Bangkok. The floor is yours, sir. Sir.
Slide. Yeah. Thank you, Sapna.
Please have
Can
his
I
presentation.
have my slide? Yeah. I thought I should provide some structured answer to the guiding questions, and yeah, just a minute. So 3 guiding questions. You just heard EPIC-Prat presentation, and also heard Asia Pacific Disaster Risk and Resilience Portal. Now, for a policymakers in the government who is planning for the adaptation in a high-risk country, he has many tools available to him. Now, the dilemma of a policymaker is which tool I should use, which is more credible, more country context specific. So how the policymakers take these tools forward. So the first question of Sapna is the pathways for climate adaptation. And the important point is early warning for early actions. I don't have to emphasize the importance of early warning system in adaptation, But I just want to give one, I think, a very powerful messages delivered by UN Secretary General at COP27. The message was in South Asia and some part of Pacific, small island developing countries, the people who are likely to die by climate extremes are 15 times more. The probability of dying in South Asia, Pacific states, and some African country, 15 times more than other part of the regions. And that is because of the lack of the access to the multi-hazard early warning system. The second key message was, with 24 hours lead time of the early warning system, you can protect, you can in fact protect, reduce 30% of the economic impact of the extreme climate event. So you can see the impact of early warning, its quality on not only mortality, but also economic assets. Having said that, how can this be a part of early warning? There are 4 pathways I thought I will bring to your attention. One is learn how risks are unfolding in a country. Risk, for example, what was there 10 years now, how it becomes risk today, how the risk is going to be the future. You saw AP PLAT projections on that. The second pathway is include early warning and risk communication. Communication of the risk is a very, very important factor, particularly to address the mortality. Cyclone Haiyan 2013 was one of the classical examples where the risk communication of a storm surges led to a very large number of casualties. Monitoring early warning system, that's the pathway 3. Pathway 4 is build the resilient system. That is your response mechanism. So all 4 put together create mainstream, the disaster early warning system for adaptation. My next point is to just let you know on what works, especially for the early warning system. I think this is an important point because having access to multi-hazard early warning system is not enough. It has to be a very effective access which should trigger action in anticipations. In the recent years, there has been a lot of improvement in weather science, the quality of weather, the forecast, early warning system forecast. But if you look at 29 deadliest disaster of the world, we have done this analysis. Many times the forecast has been very accurate. Despite accurate forecast, the casualty could not be prevented. One reason, Cyclone Haiyan, I cited with you. So it's not enough to have a very accurate forecast. It's particularly the complexity lies if the disasters are compound and cascading. The most recent example was Pakistan flood. The scale of disaster was so huge, that's what called compound and complex disasters, that the forecast was not enough to prevent. The second part is the second generation early warning system. Cannot be what it has been in the past. It has to be very precise, risk-informed, impact-based. You must know who are at the risk, what time, and the risk of what is called a very clearer risk communications. So those are the quality of early warning system which are highly technology intensive, and this is what need to be adapted. My second guiding question was why a policymakers need digital platform, which I was citing in the beginning. A policymakers, the direction that comes from the government, all international agreement is your development or your investment must be risk informed. Then what a policymakers will do especially to put in place a development which is risk informed. There are 5 steps. And those 5 steps start from the synergies of many information together related to the risk. So he has to understand the hazard profile of the country. Then he has to do the analytics, community at risk, infrastructure at the risk. So information about hazard, analytics on who at risk, to what extent, and then he has to inform the plan depending on the risk analytics solutions. And then develop the risk financing plan, how much will be allocated from the budget, how much should come from the international support, bilateral, multilateral, and then the risk governance, whether it has to go to Disaster Management Authority, National Hydrometeorological Organization, or the sectoral ministry. So putting all 5 together, you need a digital platform. It is quite information intensive. And that's where the real gap lies. A country which has put all 5 puzzles together has been able to be risk informed. So that is the question 3. The last question is how AP Plat and resilience portal can work on the ground. This is the examples of UN SDG Maldives project. When this project was conceived, I was one of the person advocating with our UN regular budget for this project. So the question was, why this project is so important? I would like to share with you in just half a minute. In Maldives, those who understand the context, the disaster risk of Maldives is not visible. It's not on a cyclone track. It's also not on the fault line of a very active seismic belt. Disaster is due to the monsoon low depression, sometimes storm surges, coastal erosion, slow onset disasters. But disaster in future in Maldives, especially when the sea surface temperature in Arabian Sea is going up, is going to be multiplied many times. So our discussion with UN SDG Fund was, if you look at hazard profile, climate risk profile of Maldives today, and when you look at climate risk profile 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, a island country which was less riskier is going to become more riskier. So you need to prepare Maldives for the future disasters, and that is where you need risk and resilience portal. We use risk and resilience portal provided the macroeconomic risk, impact, and policy response. My colleagues Madhurima explained about it. Then we use AP Plat, which provide micro CT level, CT specific. You heard from our colleagues from AP Plat, sector specific information. So when you bring macro and micro risk specific information, you are able to integrate risk into the real policy actions and planning. So you need 2 complementary portal with decision makers to be risk informed. So thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay, for telling us about these tools with real-life examples and for the policymakers. Before we proceed, please allow me to introduce you to our distinguished and honorable panelists. We have with us in person Mr. Sonam, who is Deputy Chief Planning Officer, Ministry of Finance, Bhutan. And we have in person also Mr. Jirawat Ratisunthorn, Deputy Secretary General, Office of Natural Resources and Environment Policy and Planning, Thailand. We have online Dr. Heng, who is Deputy Director General, General Directorate of Policy and Strategy, Ministry of Environment, Cambodia, and Mr. Kassis Inape, who is Assistant Director, National Weather Service, Papua New Guinea. Please allow me to now proceed with the discussion, and I would hand the floor to Mr. Sonam now, Deputy Chief Planning Officer, Ministry of Finance, Bhutan. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to share Bhutanese experiences. I will not really talk on the issues, the root cause of the climate change impacting the water resources in Bhutan, but our experiences, the pathways that we have on the way in mitigating and adopting the climate change. The first thing, what we think the most important is the entry point for financing entry point for financing.
Sorry, could we have the slides on, please? Thank you.
I think if I have to go, I think do you have time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, if I have time, so what I'll do is I'll talk a bit on the issues that we are facing. The first, we have two major issues relating to climate change impacting water resources and rural livelihoods in Bhutan. The first one is dwindling water resources. 25% of Bhutan's springs have either dried up or are experiencing diminishing discharge over the last 10 years. There is strong evidence that climate change is impacting the hydrology of springs and is a key driver of diminishing water resources. Bhutan has some of the highest rainfall zones and vulnerability to floods. Climate change is expected to further intensify these flood hazards, and studies suggest Bhutan will experience increased instances of flood disasters in the near future, and that flash floods are the biggest threat. When it comes to barriers to action and root causes, I have divided into two portions. At the national level, there exist gaps in the hydromet or agromet systems which prevent timely, quality, climate and water information at higher spatial and temporal resolution for early warning and government policy and planning. And there is also need for forecasting capacities to produce early warning alerts for heavy rainfall, flood and drought. We also require collection and dissemination of information, mainly on ground and surface water, including river irrigation in springs, snow storage. Then we also need information on river sedimentation and water quality, and climate, specifically temperature, precipitation, and other variables. At the local level, there is increasing water scarcity. There are a lot of community conflict and misunderstanding around the water, and there is also lack of comprehension in how climate change impacts the household and community. There is low capacity for community management of water resources. There's lack of critical infrastructure for those most vulnerable to climate-related water security, lack of protection against increased flood and landslide risks. Now, when it comes to Bhutan's experiences, firstly, I will not follow the order of my slide, the written on the slide, but firstly, as I mentioned, we follow the entry point of financing. The main source of financing is the 12 5-year plan, the current 5-year plan for our government. So in the 12 5-year plan, we have mentioned, we have 17 national key result areas. Of the 17 national key result areas, 3 of them healthy ecosystems, which is NKRA 5, carbon neutrality, which is carbon neutrality, climate and disaster resilient, which is NKRA 6, and sustainable water, which is NKRA 17, are distinctly linked to climate change adaptation. And in the 12 5-year plan, specifically water flagship program, which is access to 24 safe drinking water with irrigation, is one of the flagship program in the 12 5-year plan. So if we have a flagship program like this, there is a high chance that government will finance as a priority program. So for the 12 5-year plan, we have kept about 5 billion ngultram for water program. The second one is the legal framework. Recently, with the help of UNESCAP, with the expertise from UNESCAP, we are developing green taxonomy and green financing strategy. We have the National Integrated Water Resource Management Plan, prepared in 2016, the National Environment Strategy, updated in 2020, integrates new and emerging national environment challenges and the critical global challenge of the climate change. Thirdly, I would like to inform that collaboration among the multilateral donors and the bilateral donors are very important. With the UN system FAO in Bhutan, the FAO in Bhutan has engaged Delta S, an organization, as a knowledge provider to analyze past climatic trends, model climate and hydrological changes, in order to process GCF funding for the climate resilience of water resources and water management in Bhutan. We also have processed USD 10 million under the Adaptation Fund. And currently, with the help of UNDP, we are implementing a project under GCF for the water resources management. Finally, I would like to mention that capacity development at both national and local level is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sonam, for an insightful presentation on Bhutan's priorities. Dear audience, we will have some time for questions and discussion at the end, so we'll be very happy and if you would have some questions for us. So I hope you're listening. We would now move to Dr. Heng from, and then we would...
Sorry about that.
No problem. We would now request Dr. Heng, who is the Deputy Director General, Ministry of Environment, Cambodia, to please take the floor. Dr. Heng is joining us online.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Did you hear me?
We hear you.
And thank you for your invitation for the panelists. And I think I share some is regarding to the implementation, transformation, adaptation for this discussion in case climate change adaptation in Cambodia. This is for. I would like to share the share screen. Did you see my share screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not yet, sir.
See? Let me I would like to share from my computer.
Sure. Could you try? Dr. Heng is sharing screen from his computer.
Okay, I would like to share my computer. Thank you.
Yes, it is coming up.
Do you see it?
We can see your screen, but not your presentation yet.
Maybe construct this one.
So
did you see share?
Yes, now we can see.
Did you see?
This is great.
Okay.
Could you please
let
put
me
it on full screen?
Okay, let me start this from my computer and I share this one.
Sure.
Based on this, Cambodia is one of the most climate vulnerable country to climate change. Is some from the geographical list of Cambodia. High reliance on the agriculture, climate sensitive sector, and country some is a low adaptive capacity and also focus on this some limited financial and technical and human resources limited. Loss and damage is happened in the country since 2013, the flood, and we lost some account of the by US is over 300 million US, and also continue the severe flood 2020, 2022 also is for this year. For the drought is Cambodia have experienced almost 50% of the total land area suffered by drought, and recently is based on this new agreement on loss and damage by the decision COP27 is a fund for the vulnerable country hit by the climate. Climate is disaster in the for the climate change adaptation activity and at regional level for the MASAP is important for the 1-2 called is the Mekong Climate Change Adaptation Strategy Action Plan. Is one is a tool for the low Mekong Basin country. Of the strategy and priority action in the country is focused on the management climate change into regional and national policy program plan and regional and international cooperation partner on the adaptation. And some is for the transboundary gender sensitivity and sensitive adaptation option and access adaptation finance, monitoring data collection and sharing, and capacity development on the climate change adaptation strategy plan and outreach for the product on climate change adaptation. Some continue from the regional and to national level. We focus on some of these 1-2 for the opportunity to seek additional fund for adaptation measures, and also for the how to country level, national level to address the transboundary climate change activity, and regional some is for the identification concrete relevant adaptation is a measure, and some is for the adaptation aligned with the existing national strategy plan, and also include the NDC update for the country and national level and for the climate change adaptation activity. Now, process one is a document for the country how to achieve adaptation goal and NDC, and we using some climate change adaptation processes and the implementation of the sectoral program for national and subnational level. In key point that integrated adaptation planning be a long-term resilient to the impact of climate change mainstreaming adaptation activity into national and sectoral plan. For the how to link between the NAP and NDC priority climate change adaptation option, that some is concrete of the priority action and promoting and improve like adaptive capacity for the community level, and it's very important for the community-based adaptation action. That early warning system also is for sharing information dissemination to the sub-national level, also include the community level. That for implementation of this part of the protected area to adapt to climate change also include, and some is increase the use some mobile pumping station, and also is responsible for the mini drought and monitoring the groundwater research and respond to drought and climate risk, and also for the climate resilient agriculture and for the crop years. Scaling up for the climate smart farming system include this, and also provide some the strengthening technical and institutional capacity for the conduct climate change impact assessment is very important for the country. That one. How to the accelerating of the implementation in climate change adaptation priority and cooperation in the regional to national, and we have a proposal from the MRC country of the strategy priority and adaptation option and to basin level. And this is a key point to address the climate change risk on the basin and also strengthen basin-wide resilience. We also, based on this one, and contribute to the ensuring the sustainable development line with the agreement, Mekong Agreement 1995, and also include align with the Sustainable Development 13 Goal and climate action as well. We focus on this priority sector, early warning system, disaster risk management, water resources, agriculture, forestry ecosystem, and other crop cutting issues. This common response climate change adaptation priority at regional and subnational and regional and national levels, and also include subnational level. From the response, and some is key issue and raise Cambodia respond to the climate change adaptation at national level and provide some the progress of the in term of this getting setting the climate change policy. We have some of implementation of the strategy plan climate change in the country for 10 years. This next year we will the end of this document, and we will propose for the update of the Cambodia climate change strategy plan also as well. Monitoring framework also important key tool for the monitoring how to implementation in the country, and also include look at regional climate public expenditure review undertakings. NDC have important document and also provide some is national and submit to update to the UNFCCC Secretariat. The last 2 years we submit this document, and also some include an update for the national communication, the first, second, and third national communication as well. And also for the not financing framework, we have a document for the policy review, and also how to implementation and the role of adaptation report under the ETF, Enhanced Transparency Framework in the country. I share some of my experience in the country, Cambodia, for implementation and related to the policy level. Thank you very much for your attention.
Of our action to tackle with the CC problem. Nevertheless, even we work so hard on these elements, the mitigation still have to be applied for reaching Thailand goals. Let's go back a little bit on this slide. On the COP27, on the COP26, Thailand gave the ambition to the world with the 3 key successive as carbon neutrality in 2050 and net zero GHG emission in 2065 with the roadmap on NDC 40% in 2030, but in 40%, 30% on BAU base, and 10% on the conditional with support from international based on the technical, financial, and cap bill. This is the thing that we give it to the world. Next, please. Let's talk about the goal before we drill down to the activity that we did. There are 2 conditions that we have to concern. First one is about to support our goal target or try to keep the global surface temperature not to more than 1.5 degrees Celsius compared with the pre-industrial revolution or about 1900 Christian era or something like that. But now I believe that what all of you should be know about the temperature is increased about 1.1 degrees Celsius than the period which you can feel what the impact by yourself, and you should imagine what will happen if it more than 2 degrees Celsius. This is the first condition that we have to know about that. The second one is about I would like to remind all of you that we have I would like to focus on the article, the third article, and the first paragraph is about the common but different responsibility. This is a condition that we have to concern before we drill down to our activities. Next please. Before go to this, I would like to tell you our mandate of the ONEP. We mainly on the policy maker and national focal point on the CC. So most of our work or our tasks are about the policy and plan before distributed to other related agencies to implement. Start with the first one about the level 1 or national strategy, and then move to the second level is about the master plan under the strategy plan with concern about the climate change and many plan on the action plan on the level 3, like adaptation, mitigation, and NAMA and NAP, or everything that we did before we distribute it to the agency that going to be on the implementation. Next, please. We have a Thailand roadmap for tackle with the CC, detail as on the screen. After we done the revised long-term strategy in line with the new ambition of Thailand, we try to blend the adaptation with the mitigation measure as on the roadmap. Many activities have to be put down on the roadmap before we reaching to our goal on the COP26. Just only one thing that I would like to tell you, that it is very difficult. It should be noted that how difficult of this is about how to take a balance between cost investment with the time to apply and the amount of emission. I think should be noted that this is a key point, that how different we make the roadmap. Just only 3 things that we have to mention on that. Next, please. This is about the National Adaptation Plan. ONEP had been identified the measure in key sector as a framework for the guiding adaptation effort in 6 sectors, which are water management, agriculture, and food security, The third one is about tourism, public health, natural resource management, and the last one is about human settlement and security, detailed at on screen. Next, please. This is the list of the related agencies who having the primary role in the mobilization of each sector. After we have the plan, we're gonna distribute to the related agency to take care or implement it. Let me tell you something about the water sector. The related agency is about the ONWR, or Office of National Water Resources, should be the main primary role to take care on this sector. MOAC will take care on the agricultural. MOPH, Ministry of Public Health, will take care on the health sector. MOI, Ministry of Interior, will take care on the human settlement. And many departments will take care of, as I told you on the mandate. Our mandate is about, we try to formulate the plan, and we distribute to the related agency at on the screen to take care of the rest. Next, please. This is the database system that we try to support, working on the knowledge and the awareness of the people and related agency. ONEP create the climate change list map data system, which you can access through our website, detail on the left hand side on the below one. It is used to be a part of the planning and used to support decision making and to serve as a channel to build public awareness in concrete. Lastly, in order to raising of the people awareness, includes strengthening of our Monterey staff, we have a new projects, namely on capacity building for Provincial Office of Natural Resources and Environment in development of climate change work plan at the provincial level with 4 objectives, and expected that the output of these project all of the country, and all of the provincial in Thailand should have the mitigation and action plan to apply to support people awareness and strengthening of our staff. Finally, I do believe that together we can win anything, include the CC problem. No time to talk, but it's time to act. Thank you very much for your kind attendance.
Thank you very much, Kunji Rawat. Unfortunately, Mr. Kassis was unable to join us during this session. We have time for one question. The floor is open, and also online if someone would like to write in the chat box or the Q&A box. If none, thank you very much. I would like to finally invite Dr. Sanjay for his closing remarks on these amazing presentations today.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, colleagues, for your patience hearing. You heard the panel discussions, the country presentation, excellent from our colleagues. Thailand, Bhutan, Cambodia, 3 country presentations. The objective of the session was how to achieve transformative adaptation with the new tools. With the new tools and innovations which exists today, and for 2 tools were introduced, AP-PLAT and Asia Pacific Resilience Portal. Now the concluding point which I thought I must bring to your attention is, for achieving transformative adaptation. What is the fundamental needs which we understand from the presentation today is you have an adaptation plan in the water sector, in the energy sector, in public health sector, in natural resource management, in Bhutan case, in Cambodia case, all that you have seen, sector-wise adaptation plan which need to be put in place. But what is the common thread which makes this adaptation process transformative? The common thread was resilience. Water management or adaptation in water sector must be resilient. You need to be a resilient water infrastructure. Morning you heard about the nature-based solutions, green infrastructure. Similarly in environment sector, in all other sectors. So resilience is a common thread across the sector which must be built in for making adaptation transformative. So that is something came out very clearly from morning till this session. Now for sectors to be resilient, especially in the 1.5 degree to 2 degree, that is the type of threshold, you need the climate risk information fully integrated into your sectoral adaptation plan. So the climate risk information, you heard two different products from the Risk and Resilience Portal, which provides you the economic value of what could be like, for example, the impact on your GDP if the temperature in your country goes up by 1.5 degree or 2 degree. So at a macro level, if you are a secretary in the planning ministry of the government, you have to set a target that I will not allow the disaster losses to exceed beyond certain threshold, because that's the probability of loss due to the changing climate or 1.5 degree temperature. So planning ministry take a decision at a macro level. Then comes to the sectoral ministry, environment ministry, the ministry that deals with the adaptation. Then it passes on to all the sectoral ministry. So for a planning ministry, you need a macroeconomic tools which provides you the impact of the warming in the multiple sector of your government. We saw Risk and Resilience Portal provides this information. It is based on the latest climate scenario, that is AR6 assessment report 6 shared socio-economic pathway, which is most authoritative and credible climate change scenario. Then you saw AP Plat. AP Plat provides you the same assessment report 6 SSP shared socio-economic pathway. It goes to the sector level. It goes to your CT level. You know, climate change adaptation at CT level, those are very, very complex issues with many government. The more you come down the line, the complexity of planning or implementation becomes more and more complex. AP Plat, I think, to some extent has addressed this complexity. So AP Plats give you location specific, your CT is specific, your sector is specific, what could be the adaptation scenarios with the latest climate change model. So these two initiatives complement and supplement each other. And together they provide an extremely useful tool to the countries, especially to embark on the adaptation planning, to bring the element of resilience across the sector, and that's how the adaptation becomes transformative adaptation. So these are the few words I would like to conclude, Madam Moderator. Thank you very much. We are here if there are any further queries, questions to respond.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear audience, for attending this session. Thank you very much, Excellencies and honored panelists, for taking out time to present to us very special presentations. Thank you very much. We close the session now. May I request the organizers and the panelists to please stay back for a picture together.